Hello and welcome to my channel again. My name is Dr. Nasser, and today we're going to do something different. We're going to move away slightly from the theory of biology, and I have been asked to explain one crucially and important modern disease, and that is overeating, overconsuming, becoming overweight, becoming obese, and all the related problems associated with being overweight and obese. And we're talking really a serious conditions like cardiovascular disease, we're talking about diabetes, and we're talking about cancer. And the list is actually much bigger than that. Now, this problem is not just localized in a certain area, although it does appear that the Western world, with their abundance of food, seem to be suffering the most. However, the World Health Organization have released some data. These are approximate figures, by the way, because they're continually changing. About 2.5 billion people are actually overweight across the world, with about 1 billion in a state of obesity. Now, when you get into the state of obesity, it means that you are clinically in need of help because it's affecting your health in a very bad way. But the question is, how did we get here? It's most of the time it's quite a simple answer. We just overeat and we don't exercise enough, and we're eating a lot more processed foods. And that's really the crucial point here to remember, that modern life, although it has given us prosperity and abundance, has come also with some negatives. Now, but here I want to talk about why has it failed? Why has the modern society and the medical fraternity and all the recommendations that we have been given, why has it failed? Why have we not become healthy? And that is one of the problems that I want to share with you today. And I want to explain to you why we are in such a state and why we continually eat, even when we're overweight. And this goes back a long time ago. We need to go back to the days of the hunter-gatherer, because unfortunately, evolution is a very powerful thing and it helps us to adapt to our environment. But sometimes, because of its very slow nature, it hasn't caught up with us. See, society has moved on pretty quickly. Over the last 100 years, we moved on from the Industrial Revolution right across now to the technological age. We have improved in terms of agricultural food production. We have processing plants that can dish out ice cream, and they can dish out all kinds of lovely food. But unfortunately, they have to put preservatives in there and artificial ingredients in order to obviously preserve them and to make them look very nice and taste extremely nice. But unfortunately, the quality is not so good. So let me try to explain to you a little bit about the genetics of it all. So about 200 to 300,000 years ago, when we were on the plains of Africa and roaming the earth, food was scarce. We had to go hunting, and we had to go foraging in the forest for berries and for vegetation and nuts and insects. We were, from an evolutionary point of view, advantaged because we were omnivores, which means that we can eat both meat and vegetation and everything else. That helped us. But there were times in the hunter-gatherer era when there was no food. Food shortage was imminent, and it happened quite frequently because we had animal migration, we had competition, we had seasonal changes, and that put a survival strain on the community, on the early humans at the time. So the body had to adapt. The body had to find a survival mechanism in order to get through those difficult days when there was no food. And it came up with an ingenious way, and that is to get the animal to consume food every time the stomach was empty. So when there was time of abundance, time of food, and everything was around, they used to eat every time the stomach was empty. So there was a trigger that released some kind of hormone or some kind of impulse all the way to the brain. And the brain then told the early human, go hunt. Off you go. your stomach is empty. And on a continuous cycle like that, the excess food was actually stored in the fat depots. So we had fat tissue that was evolved, and it was used to store that extra food. Then, of course, came the drought, came the shortage of food period, and the only way that it could survive was to use the fat stores. Genius! And that helped the human species survive till today. And that is how we got here. Now, 200, 300 years forward, and here we are, modern society. We have an abundance of food. We don't need to go and hunt. We just simply pick up the phone and the food will be delivered to your door. Beautiful cooked food ready to eat while you're sitting down watching your television or you're on your internet, living a very sedentary kind of life. No need to hunt, no activity whatsoever. You can walk down to the supermarket if you feel like it, or even drive to the supermarket and pick up more food that way. So the whole lifestyle, the whole society has changed. But there's also another problem. It's all to do with the genes and genetics, of course. You see, going back a little bit to the times of the hunter-gatherer, there was another trait, and this is a very interesting and powerful one. And this is the reason why we are lazy. This is the reason why we don't like to exercise. And it's because of this. You see, at the time, back in the hunter-gatherer era, the DNA developed an evolutionary process to tell the early human not to do any kind of activity, except when you're hunting, when you're fleeing from danger, or protecting yourself and your family. That's the only time when it wanted you to actually do physical exercise. The other times it wanted you to rest and not expend your valuable fat stores. That's a wonderful trait, and it worked for the early human. Unfortunately, it's still here, and that's the problem. So now we have a double whammy, so to speak. We have this gene that tells us, keep still, don't move, preserve your energy, conserve your energy. And then, of course, we have this trigger that's from the stomach. So when the stomach is empty, you've just eaten. 2 hours later, the stomach is empty, and it triggers a response, hunger response, and then you go and eat some more. Now, if you were to continue this process over and over, well, your fat stores are going to get bigger and bigger. And that's why we become overweight. And because we're not exercising as well, the amount of calories in is greater than the amount of calories we use. So the net gain, unfortunately, gets converted into fat. And that's why we are overweight. And in some cases, we become obese. And that is the problem we have in today's modern society. Unfortunately, we are fighting nature's early survival mechanism that has evolved to save us, but it has not gone away. It's basically bad evolution. And it's time that we have to do something about it, because we are fighting this inbuilt mechanism of survival that was designed for the hunter-gatherer era that is no longer required in today's world. So I suppose you want me to give you some kind of solution to the problem. It is a very difficult one. And this is why we are failing to actually eat less and exercise more, because we're fighting this survival mechanism that we don't need. But I will give you some recommendations because I have to. It's very important. The first thing that we should do is you've got to be exceptionally disciplined, because you're fighting against an urge, a feeling. So you need to get yourself into good habits. As simple as that. Get yourself to waking up a bit early, go for a little walk before you have your breakfast. Maybe don't eat such big meals. Maybe have small regular meals. And that way you get into a re-establishing a new routine. And once the habit kicks in, you then are fairly safe and you will continue doing that. The second point I want you to remember is that choose quality over quantity. Remember that, quality over quantity. And there are some cultures around the world which I have observed And they actually do concentrate on the quality of food. So they eat less of the quality of food and more of the quality, more qualitative food, but less food, and less of the stuff that's not such good quality. The high starch, high sugars, and the processed foods, throw that away. So I look at the 80-20 rule, and I would suggest that you eat 80% of the good quality food and 80% indulge, if you like. And I think that will give you a fairly good balance. Number three, sorry, I have a slogan: eat from the trees, not the factories. And that will help you to understand the concept of processed food is not good. So we need to get back to nature, because remember, our bodies are genetically designed to accept natural food, not processed foods. And for health, we need to eat more of the genetically, compatible to us, to our bodies, because we and the vegetation and everything else that grows from Earth is actually biologically, symbiotically, universally, synergistically one. We are all from the same sort of organic constant composition. We are the same. And I think it's very important to them. Now, finally, I think the most important thing is also to try to get yourself into an exercise routine that you enjoy. This is the problem. I'm going to the gym, but I don't enjoy it. I want to go for a run, but I don't enjoy it. So I think you have to choose an exercise program that you actually enjoy. And once you enjoy that, again, it will become habit. And I think if you were to implement all this that I suggested today, you will be okay. I hope that's helped. Bye for now. Until next time.